I'm back here with part 2 of our Broncos logo that we're working on. And behind the scenes, I drew this, and this. So these 3 shapes I finished up. I did the horse shape initially, and that's one big shape. And then I have separate shapes. The inner lightning bolt, this inner detail, the part of the ear, the eye, and the nostril thing, they're done too. They're not connected with it yet. And eventually, they're actually going to punch out of this white shape. It's not white yet, but it's going to punch out of it so you can see the background behind it. It's going to see that big blue shape. Now, in order to make, we could just trace the big blue shape. We could do that, but it's really hard because then we have to follow that line exactly. Now, you could do that, but I'll show you another method, and depending how this works, it's not a perfect method either, because the fact that we have these things here, the offset path isn't always perfect. It follows most of what we're doing perfectly, but not all of it. So, you know, even in here, there's a little area that's a little iffy. So I'll show you about that too. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select, in order to do this, we need to actually make this, and I'll hold shift, this, and the big white part of the horse. That's it, not these other shapes. Just those 4 shapes, the 3 parts of the mane and the main horse head, white part. We're going to make that temporarily a compound path. And a compound path just basically keeps 2 paths together. It's different than grouping. It treats it kind of as one, but it's not like a group. It treats it as one path. It's like the letter O. It treats the inner and the outer, and it basically treats it as one path. And even think of the lowercase letter I, the circle and the staff part of the eye, they get treated as one. So that's kind of what's going to happen here. So I'm going to go Object, Compound Path, Make. Now you won't see anything happen. If you had a fill color, sometimes it goes away. But I just made it a compound path, and that means it'll be like grouping. And you can release that. So, you know, if you don't like that, you can go to Compound Path Release after it's done. And we will actually release it after we're done because we need to make them separate colors. And we can't do that if they're a compound path because they get treated as one path. So they're kind of one path right now. What we're going to do is we're going to do Object, Path, and we're going to do something called Offset Path. And what's nice about this is we have a preview. We have this offset path thing, and I'm going to turn on preview, and it's showing 10 point right now up here. That's the distance, and what it's doing is it's drawing a separate path outside of my original one. And like I said, it's not going to be perfect, and I can see around here it's going too far. So I'm going to try 9 point, and I could click on and off of my preview, and that looks a little better. You can see it's not perfect. It's flattening off some areas here. It's not going to be perfect, so you know, and it's even kind of joining this area in here, which could be a problem. You know, I'm going to make it 8 and see if it works out any better, but it might get too thin. You can see it looks a little too thin in places. So I think 9 point is actually pretty good. Now you could increase this miter limit if you like double this to 8 and turn preview on and off. It'll help sharpen off some of those corners here. Now you can see that we're gonna have to fix some of this stuff, so we are gonna tweak it. So you know, it's a judgment call. Do I trace it from scratch or do I try to use this? Well, we could try to use this, and then we're gonna edit the points a little bit after the fact. So I'm gonna hit OK. Okay, and what it does is it makes a separate path. There's my separate path, that outer one, and there's a couple inner things we can get rid of. But what I also want to do, I'm gonna click on this one, the one I made compound, and I'm just gonna release it so I don't forget. So that's released now. And if I want to get parts of the inner path gone, I could take my direct selection tool and I'll click on this little thing here and I'll hit delete again and get rid of that. And then I'm going to have to go around and fix some of this stuff. Now some of it's easy to fix, like this here is just basically moving an anchor point. And you have to watch sometimes, because sometimes these methods where they make paths for you, they add extra points. And that's not necessarily a good thing, because now I want to get rid of some of these, you know, and even I think there's another one here. It's almost making too many anchor points. So like I said, it's a judgment call of, you know, whether you did it yourself. Here's a point over here I'm going to move around. So a couple of these things you're going to move around. The judgment call is that it doesn't do it perfectly and accurately, and sometimes it makes too many anchor points. And then when you start editing anchor points, sorry about that. I'll move this in here. You know, I don't need an anchor point there. It made one, but I don't need one. I don't need one here either. So it makes editing almost a little more time consuming. You know, again, like I said, it's a judgment call on whether this is a method. So you could certainly try it out and see how it works. You know, the mouth is going to be a problem here because it didn't necessarily make a hole. It kind of connected. So I'm just going to get rid of this thing that's here, and there's a lot of anchor points. So I'm going to get rid of that path and just kind of connect this, and I'll fix this later. I'll chop a little hole out of it, but I'll go around in the meantime, and you can see some of these places where I didn't put an anchor point. It put them, but it's okay. I mean, it didn't do a terrible job, but it sometimes does a little more. If I go around here and look at their path, see here, you know, it's not quite on there exactly. And here's where it really had a problem. Down here with this point. Sorry about the scrolling there. You know, it's not perfect. And how would I fix this? Well, I would probably go down here and take my convert tool and just stretch out on this just slightly. Just round that off just a little bit. Now, it's not perfect. I'm going to have to tweak this a little bit. So I am going to have to do some editing on some of this stuff. And you might not even see them all, so you might have to zoom in and really see where they're at, because they're hard to find sometimes. You know, you can see that. Look at all the anchor points I put on here. I don't need all those anchor points. Okay, I'm back after doing some of that editing. Although, of course, as I go through here, I see other places to edit a little bit more as you zoom in. But one of the problems on this one, not just this, the mouth is a little tough. There's some areas on the mouth that's a little tough because of these sharp curves, which I'm now doing this. This isn't what I wanted to do right now. But this area here where there's actually, it kind of filled in, but I actually want to open it up. Now, how do I open it up? You know, you can add anchor points. There's different ways to do this. I had students saying, well, just add a point and drag it out and do all this. You know, this is another judgment call, but what I'm going to try to do is do my add anchor point tool and add a point right to this path. Okay, and rather than try to add points in here, which is kind of hard, I'm going to take my direct selection tool, click off, click on this line segment and hit delete and open it up. And that kind of like opens the fence. And what I'm going to do then is connect the fence. I'll take my pen tool then, and I should be able to kind of click on here and drag and kind of make a line to connect it. Now the path is going that way, so it's kind of tough. You know, that these real sharp curves are kind of tough. I'm going to click here, and then I'll click down here to finish it off. Okay, and I should have maybe pulled a curve, but that's okay. I'm going to go back and edit this, so I'm going to really zoom in real tight here. I just have to fix this up. I'm going to take my convert tool, because I think I need a handle down there, and I'll drag it down. And I have to do this a couple times because it's yelling at me. So again, I want my handle going that way. Now it's screwing off, it's screwing up the chin of the horse. So if you have to drag a handle, it pulls the other one out, and then you can just bring that back, and that's okay. So now I have the handle going that way. I have this little area here which has too much. So I'm going to bring that handle in as best I can without messing with the other handle. And then I might move this over a little bit and then shorten this handle over here. That seemed to work okay. Not perfect, but you know, I could make this a curve too. I could try and go here and pull out handles from here so I could, you know, bend that down a little. Then I have the ability to control that curve with this side a little bit. So again, I think that looks okay. And I made it purple temporarily as I was working on. So that's the outer part of that blue line. Okay, so I now have my outer blue line, and I tweaked it pretty well. I think it's, you know, it's not perfect, but I have it pretty well. So I have the outer blue line, which is one shape, one full shape. I have these inner shapes, which are separate 3 shapes, and then I have these. The only thing, I didn't do the eye yet. I'll do the eye last. And then I have these inner shapes. So what I'm going to do next, I'll do with the very last part of this one, with the Broncos, is I'll go over some of those minus front, some of those pathfinders here. Now that I have all the paths finished, if I go to View, Outline, I can see everything I did. And I did a pretty good job. Looks pretty good. We don't have any, this is Outline View. And to go back, you go back to Preview to see it. Now, none of these have fills right now. So what we're going to do next is kind of chop out some of these areas and knock out some of these areas so that they have holes in them, so that the white part of the horse that we traced has holes in them. And these actually won't be a hole. These will actually kind of chop out of here too, and it'll be open down here. But I left it closed so that I could do that blue outline that blue outline path that we now have finished here. So that's what I'll do for my next part.